So as I said, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of our presentation today. You have registered for career planning, Jumpstart for liberal arts students, and hanging out with Katy and I. So it's Katy Mattson and Kim Landauer, and we are both in the Center for Career Engagement. If you have not interacted with our office before, we definitely encourage you to come hang out with us. We are over in the Cub in 204, which is right above the bullet holes. So super easy to get to our space just by following those stairs. You can either do an appointment scheduling via handshake or just popping into our office. We're all happy to help you out. So our session today is going to focus a bit on kind of introducing what we call the career competencies. There is a group out there called NACE. They are the National Association for Colleges and Employers, and they've identified what we call career competencies or career readiness competencies, and there are 8 of those that I'm going to share with you in a little bit. From there, we're going to actually introduce a practice worksheet that will help you to look at your experiences, some of the opportunities that you've already had either as a student or even possibly as an employee, or from some of the extracurricular activities that you've done, looking at those experiences and how they can translate into either content for your resume or just kind of reflecting as you go through the process of interviewing and talking out your experiences with others and how to represent those. So we're gonna do that practice worksheet together, and then from there we'll head into kind of talking about some of the resources that are available to you through the Center for Career Engagement. We've got a lot of options and opportunities to offer to you here, so we're going to talk through some of those and give you a chance to see how to access them and have a better understanding of how those resources can work. And then we're going to move into another activity. This one's going to focus on goal setting. So as we look at those competencies, we're going to move from there and kind of highlight what areas might you still be wanting to work on that again will build you to kind of be a better candidate for some of these careers that or opportunities you might be seeking. And then we will wrap it up with some questions and answers for you if there's anything that we haven't touched on. Okay. So that just is kind of an overview of the agenda for today. Again, super flexible though, as Katy shared in the beginning. If you have any questions, you're welcome to pop those into the chat or wait until the end of our session and we'll be happy to help you out. When we do those breakout activities, not necessarily breakout sessions, but when we do the activities, you also might have an opportunity then to ask questions as well. So as I was sharing in the overview of the agenda, we wanted to introduce you to what are called the career readiness competencies. And you might be familiar with these, some of you either coming out of high school or where you are right now in your college education. These are terms that you may have been introduced to already and have maybe even incorporated them into your resume. There are 8 career readiness competencies that NACE has identified, and we're going to look at those and then also kind of do a cross comparison with what we call Gettysburg College's enduring skills, because there's some similarity between those enduring skills and what has been identified as career competencies. So as I was saying, there's 8 of them, and they start with career development, then into communication, critical thinking, equity and inclusion, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, and technology. And just to give pause here for a moment so that you can reflect on each one of those words and maybe how they would be defined. So just really briefly, I'm going to go back in and kind of touch on each one. So if you're thinking about career and self-development and where you are right now as a student, kind of think about what you are doing maybe to build upon your skill set and what you already know. So sometimes for students, it might be content that they've learned, and then they enhance that content through maybe a training or a certification program. And again, that adds to that knowledge and skill set that you're developing. That second career readiness competency is communication. So that's how we interact with other people, how we talk, how we share information. I also think about how you share content via email or via social media, and how that is kind of reflecting where you are in your skill set. So communication is something that we frequently, when interacting, even within our groups, if as an employee, it's interacting amongst your team. So how do we do that, and really building that skill up? Critical thinking, that's your problem-solving skills, and how you work out those scenarios when issues are presented to you. Sometimes we do it individually, sometimes we do it amongst our team. So it's how you go about doing that problem solving. Equity and inclusion is creating spaces that are respectful to all, and really building your awareness for whether it is cultural differences or just an understanding of each other. So how do we go about doing that and making sure that we are enhancing that skill? Leadership, it's how we lead our teams. Even when we are amongst a team, do we take on those leadership roles where we are the decision makers and we are guiding other people? That might be something that, as a student here at Gettysburg, and we're going to look at that more as an example later on, but what are some of the extracurricular activities that you get involved with as a student that might enhance your leadership skills, where you are either doing it through a leadership certification program or leading your team? Professionalism, it's truly how we present ourselves, and kind of thinking about what we call ethics and our values and beliefs, and really wanting to make sure that we're being respectful to other people, and how we go about doing that. Teamwork, getting along with others. Oftentimes we are tasked with collaborating and interacting with others. So that's going to be that teamwork skill. And then finally, technology, and it's building on that skill set, whether it's with specific technology. Sometimes when we are creating our resumes, we actually have a skill section that might include some of the skill sets that you have in relation to technology. It could be anything from like the knowledge of operating Excel and understanding how to work through or create those worksheets. So all a part of some of those technology skills. So again, just want to give you a brief overview of what they're talking about with career readiness competencies in regards to how that might be reflected in the workplace. So think about, for employers, career readiness plays an important role in sourcing talent. So when you are creating that resume, or you're thinking about your skill set and what you have to offer as being that best candidate, how can you define yourself looking at these career readiness competencies? Because those are things that employers might be looking for. And, kind of like thinking about the job description and what you might want, how you might want to be presenting yourself. Again, those career competencies provide a means of identifying those key skills and the abilities across all job functions. Career readiness also offers employers a framework. So when they're thinking about, how do I want to create an internship or an externship program that truly builds the student's skill set? So even employers might look at the career readiness competencies and think of, what do I need to have as a part of this program in order for it to really build the student's experience? And again, then that student's going to reflect that in their resume. So I said earlier that these career competencies are also reflected in Gettysburg College's enduring skills. So I just wanted to do a quick slide, kind of reminding everyone, if you haven't been introduced to the enduring skills that Gettysburg College has been talking about, there's that feel that as a student here on campus, these are a skill set that you're exposed to and encouraged to build upon in different ways, whether it's academically or in your co-curricular activities. Of course, here with the Career Engagement Office, we look at how these kind of pair up nicely with those 8 career competencies. And again, those enduring skills are adaptability, communication, creativity, and intercultural fluency, leadership, problem solving, and teamwork. And if you think back to what those 8 career competencies look like, you can really see how they match up nicely. So this brings us to the next part of our presentation, where I wanted to give everyone a chance to kind of think about where you are as a student, the experiences that you've had at this point in your life, whether it be as a student, whether it be at Gettysburg College campus, or maybe it's even experiences that you've had as an employee or in some of the opportunities that you've been a part of. So what we're going to do next during this workshop is give you a chance to think about those experiences, really define what it is that you did in those experiences, and then see how those experiences might match up with the career readiness competencies that I introduced you to earlier. So what I'm going to do now is jump out of this screen share and actually pull up the worksheet that's going to guide you through this activity. So give me just a moment. Okay. Oop, I'm going to leave it right here. Okay, so let me just kind of give you a description first of how this activity works, and then I have I'm going to jump back then to our presentation on our slideshow and show you how you might actually fill in the worksheet with your experience, the responsibilities or the tasks, what you actually did in the experience, and again, then the competency. So just to kind of start, let's just do, again, just like some brainstorming of some of the experiences that you might have had on campus, and how would you define that experience? And then again, thinking about what types of things you did as a part of it, and then how that might match up to a competency. And I know it's going to be kind of tricky because even with the competencies, they were on a different slide, but let's do it this way. I'm going to jump back. Bear with me here for a moment and kind of talk through it. What I plugged in there, kind of thinking again about an experience that you might have here at Gettysburg College, I was thinking about students who have participated in Garthwaite Leadership Center offers a leadership certification program. And for a lot of students who have interacted with that office, that might be one of the experiences that they have that they do want to incorporate into their resume. But also before you get to that point, it's kind of thinking through it in a way that how can I add this to my resume? How can I make this a part of, talking about some of the skill sets that I've learned. So if that's the experience that you identify, then it's breaking it down to, well, what did I actually do as a part of that certification program? So that might include participating in the program, interacting with other team members as a part of the work that you're doing in that leadership certification program, and building that skill set. And then going into, well, how would I define that as a competency? Well, we talked about leadership as one of the career readiness competencies. So that would be the competency that you would plug in. And again, so kind of going through that as the experience is the Garthwaite Leadership Program, identifying or the certification, and then going through and identifying what you did as a part of it and identifying the competency. And then you can actually take that content and transfer it into your resume to identify that as one of your experiences. So again, we wanted to give you a moment to think about your own opportunities and experiences. And we're just going to kind of pause here for a moment in the presentation, give you about 5 minutes to think through this activity and consider some of the experiences that you had. And again, they can be extracurricular activities. They could be a part of experiences that if you're currently working as a student employee on campus, that might be the experience that you identify, or it could be a different job that you've had off campus. So we're going to take a break here for just a moment and give you an opportunity to work on that.
Sorry, quick question.
Yeah, how can we help?
Just to recap the competencies you were talking about, were that adaptability and that kind of stuff, or was that something else?
Yes, those are the competencies.
Okay, sorry.
I don't know, Kim, if you can scroll down to the second page just to sort of,
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
so
Yep.
um, these are the competencies. These are slightly changed a little bit, but these are basically what we're looking at.
Okay,
Does that
thank you.
answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to give you a few more seconds to kind of think through some of these, and then we'll pull everyone back together. Just to give you a heads up, if anybody's willing to share, it is one of the things I'm going to ask. See if we have anybody out there who's willing to share and talk with us.
Yeah, I can go ahead if that's okay.
Oh, you're jumping on it. That's absolutely okay. All right. So just to do a quick recap before we do jump into sharing. So you were kind of tasked with looking at those career competencies, and I can scroll back in just a moment to let you see how those were identified. But looking at those career competencies and thinking about your experiences and how you've already had the opportunity, or you've already built that skill set towards that career competency, which again could get reflected in your resume or maybe even shared out in an interview. So thinking about that. And then, as I said, I was kind of looking to see if anybody was willing to share out and talk about their experiences, what they did, and how that met one of those competencies. So sure, if you're willing to go ahead and take it away. Wasn't quite able to see who it is that's willing to help us.
Oh yeah, that was me. So I was just gonna say, so I'm an RA on campus, and it's my first year doing that, and that was like actually one of the things they kind of used as like an advertisement to apply. Like you can transfer all these skills to a future job in your life, and I can't really see it now because I think it was on the last slide, but like the list of all the
Oh, there you
different
go.
skill sets. Yeah, and like with that experience, I definitely grew in like pretty much all of these. I'd say maybe like not digital technology because that's not really a part of the job, but like leadership, professionalism, critical thinking, and especially collaboration and communication. Like those are all skills that I developed with the RI job. So hopefully I can see that transferring to a job in the future too.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, Owen. And that opportunity in working in the role of RA definitely touches on a lot of these competencies as you spoke of. I mean, I even think about the critical thinking, like that problem solving, because you're never quite certain what's going to be asked of you in that position, and really being able to be responsive and respectful, of course, to how you go about working things out with your residents. So thank you for sharing that. That was fantastic. Anybody else who's willing to take a go at this?
I'll give it a go.
Perfect. All right, go ahead.
So overall, I've had quite a few jobs, between the summer and working here at school. And a few examples, like I worked landscaping, I worked at a hardware store, I tour guide here, and there's just a few examples. And I think you can get most of these skills depending on what you put into it. And I think, especially in our younger years, it really depends on what you put into the job and what you want to get out of it and how you apply yourself. And so when when I was working landscaping, you could just do the work, but you could take the extra step to try and communicate with others and collaborate. And I think out of all this, I think I got if I'm looking at the list, it would be professionalism and collaboration. I really developed. If you're trying to take the extra step, I think it really matters at this point, like what you're trying to put into it.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. And it is one thing to just check the box and say job done. It is another thing to go and put that extra effort into it. And it really does speak highly of a person when they do take those extra steps and put that effort into it. And as you pointed out, like you were sharing out with your job as in that role of landscaper, and how you do need to collaborate and work with others in order to get the job done. And so, yeah, that was perfect how you thought about how these career competencies have been a part of that experience for you. Well done. Thank you. Anybody else willing to take the risk? I appreciate it. Okay, well, thank you for considering it. And I do think, you know, again, just by we're doing this activity, it's giving you that chance to really think about those experiences and what you're gaining from them. So there's going to be a spot later on in our presentation where we're going to give you an opportunity to do some goal setting. And one of the things that you might have found as you were reflecting on your experiences and considering these competencies is maybe in what areas have I not had the opportunity to work towards one of these competencies. So kind of thinking about technology, maybe in some of your experiences, you haven't been developing that skill set, and it might be something that you'd like to grow on. So we're going to do that as possibly a part of goal setting, that you might incorporate that into there. Okay, so let me just jump back for a moment into our PowerPoint. Katie, I'm going to give it another whirl and see if I can pop it up, okay? Unless you want to.
I can go ahead.
Okay.
I can go ahead and get that going.
Yeah, I apologize. I have no idea what went wrong.
All right. So if you want to stop sharing, Kim, I can go ahead and pop mine up.
Okay.
All right. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think both of you shared something that I think is really valuable, both the idea that you can look for transferable skills. So with the RA experience, they were actually advertising this as an opportunity to gain some transferable skills. And then also with the idea of going the extra mile, where are the places where you can build on some of those opportunities as well? So one of the things we wanted to touch on is sort of, as we're talking about a liberal arts education, why is that valuable? So yes, looking for those opportunities for transferable skills, but also what are employers looking for? And so a lot of, as you may know, there are jobs that exist today that didn't exist when I graduated from college. And we know that this is going to continue to be the case. We're all sort of watching AI and seeing what's happening with that. And so those first couple of years, sometimes of a job, or even on an internship, it's sort of that skill acquisition. It's really learning those skills that you need to do that specific job. But the liberal arts gives you that basis where you can kind of acquire those skills on the job, but also then build on that and adapt as things move forward and things change in the workforce. So you might see that sometimes people are, you may often get the question, what can I do with this major, right? And so we're in our office, we pretty much say you can pretty much do anything, right? I mean, there's some majors that are going to be a little bit more prescriptive or a little bit more focused career-wise. And then there are other ones that are going to have lots of different skills. I once asked a faculty member, what can you do with a religion major? And one of the pieces that they brought up was the ability to argue in a respectful way. So to have in a workforce, you want to have varieties of opinions, and so being able to present your case in a way that's respectful of other people as you're making that argument can be really valuable skill. So so we just kind of want to plant that seed and have you keep thinking about what are the opportunities. And I think it was Jonah who said, really go looking for those opportunities when they arise to build on those skills as well. And so again, the liberal arts teaches students to think critically and solve problems. I think we all know this. For a lot of your courses, as well as experiences that you have on campus, are going to be very focused on that. And well-rounded, inquisitive, critical thinkers. So those are just some things. Basically, the idea, this worksheet can be really helpful for you, the one that Kim just went through in terms of building up your resume, thinking about what you might want to include on your cover letter, what might be good examples that it might help to highlight some of those based on the skills that they're advertising in that job description. helps you to come up with a personal statement. If you're applying to graduate school, one of the things I often say, I advise like a toddler. I'm going to keep asking you why until we get to that piece that I can see where you're excited about why you want to pursue that particular degree. And so this sheet can do that too. It can kind of sort of say, what are the things that I'm really excited that I've acquired, and what are some of the things that I still need to build on? And of course, I think Kim said as well, when you're on that interview, really highlighting those skills and helping the employer to see what you've gained from those experiences. So I'm going to pop out of this one and come into another. I'm going to show you some of the resources. So as we've said, some of these skills you already have, some of those skills you might be looking for, and then some of them you might want to build on. And so we just kind of want to make sure that you leave today with an idea of some of the resources that we have that might help you on the way to that, to your exploration, and also in terms of building on anything that you might want to build. So if you go to our homepage, it's gettysburg.edu/career. We talk about resources a lot in our office. And then I think there's a lot out there, so people don't always know exactly what we have. And there really are some resources that I think can be very helpful. So if you go to gettysburg.edu/career and then go under students and then review resources. So gettysburg.edu/career is not necessary, it's not actually our URL, but it will get you there. So it's an easy one to remember. One of the most helpful resources, I think, is what can I do with this major? Whether you've chosen your major or not, this can be a really good resource to look and sort of see what can you do with that, or how do you build on that, and then how do you search for positions that might be relevant to the things that you enjoy about your major. So they are grouped by sort of areas. So if you look under communication, for example, if we just click into one of these, for example, global studies, it will actually, it keeps locking me out because of my password. So we'll just go into it this way. So if I go, what can I do with a major in, and then I click on something, we'll go into business today. So let's say it doesn't have to be a major that we offer. It can be anything. What it will do is it'll give you some common career paths. So that can be really helpful. I know I'm interested in this major. I know I like the pieces of this, but I don't really know what types of positions I might look for. It'll also help you to give you some search terms when you are on those search engines looking for jobs or internships. It gives you the types of employers that are looking, and also strategies that you might want to look for. It will then expand on those areas a bit, getting started, and then also going that extra mile. I think that will be our theme today. And then it also will tell you some opportunities, places where you might be able to search specific to those interests. So it's a little bit more honed in on the types of positions you might be looking for. Another resource that I think is that we have that not everybody knows about is Connect Gettysburg. So this is like LinkedIn, but it's specific for Gettysburg College students. So this gives you the opportunity to go in here and to connect with people who might be doing things that you're interested in. You can search by people who have identified themselves as mentors, and they will have an orange sticker up here that says willing to help. It will also say what they're willing to help with. So it will tell you all of the things that you can connect with this person about. This can be a really good place to start networking. I know networking can sometimes be a bit daunting. It's not going to be the be all and end all, but it really will get you started. And again, these are people who specifically said that they want to help Gettysburg students and Gettysburg alumni. If you sort of feel like if you don't have an idea, you're really feeling lost, and you need a little bit of time to reflect on what you might be interested in, we do have something called Focus 2. It's a career interest inventory. So you can sit down and think about some of your skills, your interests, and then your values. And so it will basically ask you what skills you have, what skills you want to build on, what are your interests. And then once you apply the values to that, it starts to narrow down the possible career paths. So this is, you can actually look at it by major. You can look at it, view occupation by major, or view majors for occupations. And so it will have the different occupations, but then it might also say, here are some of the majors that people sometimes have in these particular careers. And then it will give you, and you can click into that for more information. It is not a magic, it's not magic. So it doesn't say, you don't spend 20 minutes on it and then suddenly you have your whole life figured out, but it might give you some starting points. Are there any questions at this point? Okay. One thing also that we have that is really helpful, it keeps logging me out of these things, but we, if you're interested in working abroad or looking at internships while you're abroad, this can be a really good resource. It is something that we pay for, so it's hidden behind the paywall. But you can go into the career guides, and by country, you can actually look and sort of see what are some of the things. So if you decide that you want to work in Finland after graduation, they have job search resources. They have information on getting your resume ready, interview advice, networking, et cetera, and then also the financial. So that's a really good resource and definitely underutilized. The other one that is really helpful is, as you know, a lot of interviews now are on Zoom. So this can be a really good resource. This is called called Big Interview, and it will help you to kind of do general interviewing practice, give you ideas of questions and how you might answer those questions. And it might also help you to practice. And what I also like is it does it, as you can see, competencies are always important regardless of where you look. And so you can actually look by competency. So right now I have one on by creativity. And so you can pick these questions, and then it will actually help you to practice with that person. So it will.
Tell me about a time you came up with a new approach to a problem.
And then you'll go down here and record yourself. And it does have AI in it. So it will score your interview. It will look to see if you're looking out the window. It will look to see, it will count your ums. It will do those types of things. So I don't recommend doing this the day before you interview, because it can sometimes highlight some of the things that you might not have a chance to work on, but it can be a really good resource for you when you're practicing that interview, and particularly for online interviews. But there's everything in here. They have mini interviews for people who are looking at medical school. They have behavioral interviews. They have all sorts of things. So I highly recommend this resource. It's a good place to start. And then finally, we have something called Candid Career. This is a helpful resource. It has lots of informational interviews with people doing all kinds of different professions. So if you think you might want to go into advertising, you can go in here and see what someone might list as some skills you might want to think about. It can be helpful in that regard. So you might want to take a look at that. Kim, I don't know if we have a question or not. While Kim looks that up, I'm going to go ahead. So this is the other thing that Candid Career also has is it has some resources on basic career readiness. And so one of the things that you'll probably do both in your internship search and your job search is do some informational interviewing. So as you're networking, you're going out and talking to people who are working in the field that you're interested in and finding out what a typical day might look like for them, how they got where they are, and what advice they might have for you. And then of course, at the end of those experiences, do you know anybody else that I can talk with, that I can speak with? So I just wanted to show you this brief video. This is a little bit of information on informational interviewing and kind of some things to think about where you are now with some of the skills that you have and how you might use that to move to the next phase in terms of where you are in your search.
Hey everyone, it's Billy from CandyCareer.com.
Can you hear
We
that?
get requests all the time for us to break down the process of the informational interview. Today, we're going to do just that. There are three main reasons why you should do an informational interview. First, to learn exactly what that career entails. Second, to learn about the expectations that that employer has for future candidates. And third, to identify any gaps in your training or experience that might prevent you from breaking into that industry.
You know, you get to hear firsthand from, whoever it is that you've asked, their daily routine and the tasks that they perform in their job. Secondly, you can actually, in some cases, go to the person's place of employment and view the setting and the culture. And then finally, an informational interview can help you discern whether this is the job for you. I mean, oftentimes you have a certain perception of what you think a job is. And after talking to someone who does the job 365 days a year, or at least are in that position for some time, you hear the things that they go through or things that they're responsible for, and it doesn't really line up with your goals. So informational interviews are really important.
There are so many ways that you can find a professional who'll sit down and talk to you about their career. Whether it's your family and friend network, your school's alumni network, or even social media sites like LinkedIn. When you make first contact, be clear about how you got their number and why you hope that they'll meet with you.
I think that it can't hurt to take any interview that is offered to you because you never know where it can lead you. And you might learn something about yourself or learn how to answer a question better to be prepared. So when the job that you really want asks to interview you, you're comfortable, you have a feel as to how an interview takes place.
Keep in mind that this professional probably has a busy schedule. So out of respect, try to keep your interview to about 20 or 30 minutes. Even though you're just gathering information and you're not there to ask for a job, you should treat this like a job interview. So dress the part, have your resume handy, call ahead of time to confirm, and don't be late.
You know, don't show up wearing flip-flops and a t-shirt when I'm there in a sport coat and maybe a tie. You know, come showing me that you have an interest in what my company does too. You know, make sure you do research on the company. Ask me 5, open-ended questions, and then let me, talk to the relevancy of those questions.
During the interview, it's important to learn about the company as well as the industry as a whole, but make sure you're focusing primarily on that individual's career. Some good topics to bring up are, what does their job entail? What attracted them to this job? What are some of the challenges that they face? And what is their background, both educationally and professionally? It's also not a bad idea to maybe ask them about their short-term and long-term career goals.
Bring some questions of your own. If you're talking to, if it's a startup and you're talking to the CEO, try to see what his 5-year plan is and where they see it going. And again, what's this section going to be like in a year or two? Because it's gonna help you get a better idea of sort of the place that you're jumping into. But I think it's also going to impress the employer that you've done your research. It shows them that you're interested and you're organized and you have good initiative.
Just because the interview is over doesn't mean the process is through. As you're leaving, ask for a business card so you can stay in touch. And when you get home, promptly write a letter thanking them for their time. And when you do get a job, it's not a bad idea to drop them a line and let them know where you landed. Remember, it's all about building your network.
Informational interviewing is so important, and it really is about setting up those contacts. So when you do need that job, really, you already made that introduction and you're not cold calling someone when you really have to get that job. By setting up the informational interview, even though there's not a position you're necessarily applying for, you have now put yourself on that person's radar.
I'm going to close that out because it will probably go into the next one. So, all right. So the next thing that we're going to kind of give you some homework because I think we're pushing up on towards the end and we want to make sure that we have some time for questions. But one of the things that we put in the description of this program and that we really wanted is that, to sort of set some goals. So I think we've talked about some of the skills that you've acquired or that you might be thinking you might need to acquire. We've talked about some of the resources that are available and sort of how that translates into your internship or job search. But kind of thinking about now, how do I do the next step? How do I get started with all of this? This is a lot of information. And so one of the things with goal setting is to kind of break it down. So I often say when I talk to students about getting started with that job or internship, to find an internship or to find a job is this really big goal. Often it can be sort of this angry cloud that kind of follows you everywhere, right? I need to find an internship. I need to find a job. And I think if you break those down into smaller steps, it makes it more manageable and it makes it more effective and you can kind of hold yourself accountable and you can move forward. So think about, okay, I want to find, maybe a big goal for you that you might accomplish in 2 to 5 years might be to work in a position where I have time for sailing or time for spending time with my pup or time with family, those types of things. So that can be something that's really sort of big. So I know generally this is what I want to look. And so take a minute and brainstorm all of the things that you could do over the next you could do to get started on that goal. And then take one of those goals. So if it's to find a job that where I don't sit at a desk all the time. You might say, okay, I'm going to research types of jobs where I might have the opportunity to move around, or I might research jobs that are outside, or I might take a career interest inventory like we talked about and sort of say, with my interest in working in a job that has a lot of variety, what are some of those positions? And so then, what are the steps? And so to kind of keep breaking that down until you have something that you can do right now to get started, and then to start to develop that timeline and that list of where you move going forward. So that's just something to take with you to kind of move on from here. And I think that's basically where we are. So I think I'm going to stop sharing and let us open it up for some questions. Did I miss anything, Kim?
No, I think that was perfect. Absolutely.
Okay.
So there was a question I'd answered in the chat, but if anybody else has anything that they'd like to ask about, and you can either plug it into the chat or just reach out right now and we can talk things through.
I do have a question here about the connections that are made in Connect Gettysburg, and can you transfer them to LinkedIn? Yes, I definitely think a lot of times in Connect Gettysburg, you may have access to that person's email or that LinkedIn profile. If not, we can certainly connect with them that way. Often, remember with LinkedIn, if you're connecting with people, like I always say, if you want to connect with me, feel free, because then any of my first connections will automatically become your second connections. So anything you can do to kind of open those up. There are specific ways you can search in LinkedIn. So you can search LinkedIn for people who graduated from Gettysburg College, and we can certainly help you to do that as well.
Yeah, that was helpful.